clear at NAB last year. I'm not a visionary, none of us at Jump are visionaries, but it's very clear when the vision's presented to us, we can see. And going to NAB last year, it was very clear that the industry had changed. That change is based on fundamental protocols that underpin the industry moving to IP. Obviously that's happened on the distribution side, non-linear TV and all that sort of stuff, catch-up services, video on demand, etc., delivery over IP networks. But on the production and play-out side, it's an absolute transformation, and it's not like the transformation even from black and white to colour or SD to HD. It's an absolutely fundamental change that underpins the industry. It's not happening overnight, and it's going to take years, and we're going to be operating in a hybrid SDI IP environment for quite some time. Everybody we've spoken to agrees with that, and that's what we're seeing. IP, of course, it is an expense at the moment. Changing there is still a slight risk to it. We're still in a slight state of flux with standards, but it also, IP offers huge opportunities. It offers much greater flexibility. It offers the ability to work in new ways. I mean, the analogy is probably when we first started working with our client LiveView about 5 or 6 years ago, cellular bonding technology. It was really about people were using cellular bonding in the same way that they would use satellite trucks. So they were thinking in the same way. And it took some time for people to realise that they could actually begin to think in a completely different way. If you didn't have to have a satellite truck and you had the mobility of a portable cellular bonding unit and you could use cellular networks, then flexibility was absolute. So people can, it's the same with IP, I think, over time. People are going to start thinking differently about how they can use it. But of course, at the moment, for a lot of people, it's not, let's put it this way, probably when people come to make their big next change, next upgrade of technology and equipment, they will move to IP. That also means virtualization, it means a lot more, it tallies a lot more with cloud-based services, which is obviously another direction the industry is moving in. So that brings us to the question of what we expect to see at NAB this year. Now it's difficult to predict really, sitting here at the moment, but 4K, but I mean 4K is slightly odd in that obviously there's the issue of how big a TV you need to appreciate it. Having said that, I've got friends who've gone out and bought 4K sets already. There's the issue of still, one of our clients, Globecast for example, there's still a huge amount of business in moving channels from SD to HD around the world. So it's not, 4K is interesting. I think in the sports market it's very powerful. Obviously some of the, as we know, Hulu, Netflix, etc., YouTube, looking at 4K, using 4K, although you could question how real that 4K is to a certain extent because of the compression being used. So I think 4K will be interesting. Camera technology's changed so much since we started Jump 8-9 years ago. Look at how affordable cameras are now, and that goes all the way from from simple iPhones that we're shooting on here, right up to high-end cameras. The cost base is much lower. Really, the broadcast industry as it was doesn't really exist in the same way as it did, and I think IP, going back to IP, that opens up the industry to other parties coming in from outside, which has always been an issue for other companies trying to get into the industry because they don't understand how to ship real-time, frame-accurate video around the world using SDI. It's a difficult thing to do, and it's required very specific technologies. That's changing. Virtual reality, possibly. That was certainly talked about a lot last year, so it'll be interesting to see with that. Things like Facebook Live, Periscope, that changes the dynamic for live video as well. As we've seen, Facebook Live is very impressive and easy to use. Beyond that, yes, I mean, it's also, I think it's the broadcast industry in inverted commas now, really the sort of professional video industry, really varies around the world. It's very geography dependent. What's happening in the US, for example, it may not, it's not what's going to be happening necessarily in the Middle East or parts of Africa or Asia or parts of Europe. So it's not a cut and dried situation. But it'll be interesting to see at NAB this year. I think everybody we've spoken to so far, we've been here a couple of days, we've seen a lot of people, there's a huge amount of uncertainty. But the main thing here in all of this is that content, I know it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, content is king. If you haven't got good content, you're stuffed.